Before I pass off to DB, what encouraging words would you give to Nick Cannon? Because there was a headline that said they're giving him his show back. How would you encourage him?
Well, when Nick first got into that controversy, I sent him a DM. I love Nick Cannon. I saw him when he first started as a teenager. Man, I knew he was going to be huge.
Mhm.
It's a thin line, man. We walk a thin line.
Right.
You got to be careful when you start talking about the Holocaust. It's like you got to be careful when you start talking about the Black Muslims.
Right.
You
Get
got to be
that.
careful when you start talking about Dr. King.
Right.
You got to be careful when you start talking about the mafia.
Right.
You got to be careful when you start talking about um, certain people in this business.
Right.
You know, it's a thin line, bro. And I learned it when I said something about Spike Lee. Niggas called me talking about you C-list ass, no acting ass nigga. You ain't never done shit. And I mean, I got a lot of backlash. And I was really literally telling the truth because if we could get Spike on here, he'll tell you. But he had to grow from that. And I commend Spike Lee because he went to Tyler Perry like a man. And all I really was saying is, as African American men or women, we cannot go to the crossover press and dog and throw another black man or woman under the bus. We can't do it. At least for my era, that's how I was raised.
Got that.
So um, I think we have to be careful. And so um, I think Nick learned that you got to be careful. You can't just spew out things. And I think he recovered, and he did what he was supposed to do. He became more sensitive to the plight of what Jews have been through. I don't think only other than slavery. I don't think there's anything worse than the Holocaust. If you saw Schindler's List, I mean, I don't think anything compares to slavery. I don't care what nobody say. I made a post, and one Negro came to my page and said, "Well, Africans enslaved black people. Yeah, they did, but they got brainwashed too. You know what I'm saying? And then there was slavery in Africa and different countries where you trade people, but it wasn't this brutal caste system of slavery that African Americans and our ancestors knew in this country. Not letting Africans off the hook. I ain't letting nobody off the hook that perpetrated slavery. But I know what happened to my forefathers. I don't have a history and knowledge of all the stuff that went on in Africa before slavery came. But
Right.
I know that it was not as brutal as the caste system that we saw.
Right.
And so I'm happy for Nick. He's somebody I love and care about as a person.
Right.
And I think it's important for us to be sensitive about African American issues, but we also have to understand, we got to be sensitive about other issues too. They just shot an Asian kid, I think, somewhere. I love Asian people, man. I eat more Chinese food than any nigga you know.
Well, you did spend some time in New York, so
You take my wonton shits from me, man, I'd be mad as hell. Because a lot of times you look in a black neighborhood, it ain't but nothing but one Chinese food right on green decal, man. What? No, I'm saying your cleaners, your certain places we've been to, and I'm making a joke, but we gotta learn to respect each other. And I think Nick learned that. I think Nick learned that. That's what I think he learned. And they were able, and I commend them for sitting back down at the table with Nick.
right. Okay.
That's a good thing. What do you think about it?
Oh, I'm glad you asked. I thought that when he said you can't fire a boss, I thought he should have galvanized his resources like you. So let's say hypothetically, LeBron James is an ally,
Mm-hmm.
Puff Daddy or Jay-Z, and he says, you know what? They're trying to blackball me. Can we form Voltron? Can you help me form Voltron and
Mm-hmm.
and take down this monster and humble them to a certain level where I don't believe in equality. I believe in equity. Give me my shit back. Give me my Wild and Out show, and I'm going to take it to Revolt, or I'm going to, because if LeBron James does it, guess what? His allies do it. If Jay-Z says yes, his allies does it. And now Viacom has a meteor-sized problem on their hands that's costing them millions of dollars a day.
And what is that?
The fact that their audience is gone. And similar to the NFL, ratings drop. And that's what I had to learn. It's not about the talent. It's about ratings, you know,
Yeah.
and I think that if he could have took a step back for one day, because remember, it was all in 24 hours. It wasn't like
Yeah.
if he would have sat back for a day, 2 days, 3 days, and breathed for a while. Maybe he has an experienced man like you calling him, maybe someone who's actually doing business with him, and say, you know what, I'm let's see how far we can get together first.
Yeah, you know,
Mhm.
and listen, bro, I'm not gonna sit here on this phone and dispute you, but there's so many levels to
I
this
get
shit
that.
that your advisors who, like my manager is white, man. This guy knows everything about my life.
I bet.
You know, a couple of my friends are African American brothers who advise me. Your agents, your lawyers, a lot of times they're white, and they're saying, "Hey, Nick, come on, man. I mean, really, let's find an olive branch here, and it's really." And I get it,
Mhm.
man. I call my manager sometimes, and I'm livid, and he says, "Cliff, you just can't do it that way." Now, are you right? Do you think we should pull out of the NFL? Sometimes I feel like we should, and let's just see what they do, because we need some more black coaches. We need some owners, and it's a 97% African American or so.
Something like
But
that.
man, to be a revolutionary in the 2011, it's just not going to happen.
Mm.
People want to feed their families,
I get
you
that.
know. People, and so there's no right or wrong. It's just like
Perspective.
it's just perspective on, and it ain't your fight. It's Nick's fight. It's like what I
Yeah.
learned about this whole thing when I said something about Spike Lee. Nigga, I lost so much work, and niggas that knew I was right, didn't nobody come. Maybe one guy heard Charles Dutton say, "Man, Cliff Powell was telling the truth." Ain't nobody, man. This shit ain't the '60s, man.
Did y'all
And
ever
I know
did
that
you
sound like listen. I'm a conservative. I got a family to feed. I got bills to pay. Now, does that put me in a system? To a certain extent, we all in that system,
Mhm.
and it's a lot. And then I think you got to make some hard choices.
Absolutely.
Some
Yeah.
people might have said, why'd you walk away from that show, man? That thing got it picked up 10 years. You might have stuck in there. You've been able to make some changes, become one of the producers. Maybe. So I think it becomes an individual choice. And whatever they decide to do, I try to be, if it's my friend, I try to be supportive.